Thank you to the organizers. This is a great initiative, and thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here. Also, feel free to jump in with questions. Just unmute yourself, and I'll set my pace accordingly. Before I begin talking about non-malleability and universal composability, I just want to tell you a bit about my path to where I am today. So I have a bachelor's in engineering in information science from an engineering college in Bangalore. I then spent 1 year in the industry as a software engineer at this company called Nortel, where I worked on networking and access policies for networking, which sort of kindled my interest in security. And then I got my master's in IIT Madras in cryptography. And then I pursued my PhD in computer science in NYU. Then I spent a great 2.5 years as a postdoc in Aarhus University. And finally, I made it to IISc. Okay, so let's begin talking about zero-knowledge SNARKs. Let me begin with a motivating application. So let's think about a blockchain, which is a ledger that is sitting out there. And parties want to convince each other of assertions, and they want to do this without sort of leaking any secrets. So for instance, if a party wants to prove knowledge of X, which is a secret key corresponding to a public key that is sitting on the chain, they want to do this without revealing the secret key itself. And zero-knowledge proofs are tools that allows one to do this. So let us begin by looking at zero-knowledge proofs, because that is what zkSNARKs are, a kind of zero-knowledge proofs. So zero-knowledge proof is an interactive protocol. We have a prover who is claiming knowledge of W such that f of W is Y, where the function f is public and Y is public. W, which is the claimed input, is private to the prover, and the prover wants to convince the verifier of this assertion without revealing anything about W. So the prover and the verifier interact in a certain number of rounds, and the verifier either accepts or rejects at the end of the interaction. We want the completeness property from this protocol, which says that if the prover is honest and if the verifier is honest, then the verifier should always accept a true statement. And we also want the property of this being a proof, which is the following property, that if the prover is deviating, is arbitrarily deviating, and it's a cheating prover, then the prover should not be able to make the verifier accept a false statement. So if the statement is false, no matter what the prover does, the verifier should not accept. And the privacy property that I talked about before is what is formally captured as the zero-knowledge property, where if the verifier is cheating, even if the verifier is cheating, she cannot learn anything beyond the truth of the statement by participating in the protocol. So in addition to the soundness and the zero-knowledge property, sometimes we require this property that is called succinctness, which says that, which asks the following question: should the verifier expend computational resources that is as much as computing F? So succinctness is about the communication complexity and the complexity of the verifier in verifying the proof. So a proof system is said to have succinctness if the verification runs in time that is logarithmic in the size of the witness. We'll see distinctions between witness succinctness and circuit succinctness later on in the talk, but at a high level, succinctness is about both. The communication complexity and the verifier complexity should be logarithmic in the size of the witness. Okay, so these succinct zero-knowledge proofs are a powerful cryptographic tool that sort of allows us to construct privacy-preserving succinct proofs of computational integrity, which, as we can see, can have plenty of applications in the blockchain setting. And in '92, Killian gave a construction of an interactive succinct proof. However, this sort of has two disadvantages. Because this is interactive, it cannot be used for the application we started out with earlier. It cannot simply be posted on a ledger, because in the blockchain setting, we cannot expect all the verifiers to be online, and we cannot expect the prover to interact with everybody in the world in order to convince the verifiers of an assertion. So we really want proofs that are non-interactive and can simply be posted on the ledger. The second downside is this construction is based on what are called probabilistically checkable proofs, and therefore has poor concrete efficiency. And this again does not work for the kind of applications we have in mind. So let us look at what is a non-interactive zero-knowledge proof. So here again, we have a prover and a verifier like in the interactive setting. But instead of the prover and the verifier interacting in a certain number of rounds, we simply have a one-shot proof that is sent by the prover to the verifier. And again, the verifier sort of says yes or no. And for this to be possible, we have to assume a setup phase. This can either be a hash function that is modeled as a random oracle or a common reference string that is sampled from a certain distribution and available to both the prover and the verifier. In the presence of this setup, we can have a zero-knowledge proof that is non-interactive. So the verifier need not interact with the prover, but can simply receive one message from the prover and can say yes or no. Okay, so now what is a zkSNARK? So we'll be talking about mostly SNARKs for NP. So zkSNARK is a proof like this, a non-interactive proof. And it stands for zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive arguments of knowledge. So arguments, not these kind of arguments, but argument is a proof system where the soundness holds against computational provers. And an argument of knowledge is the property that asks for the existence of an extractor, which says that whenever the prover convinces a verifier, there exists an extractor that can extract a valid witness. We will see this more formally a bit later on in the talk. So the first zero-knowledge SNARK, that is a succinct argument that is also non-interactive, was constructed by Micali in '94. This is essentially the construction of Killian made non-interactive by having the prover compute all the messages in its head by using a random oracle to compute the challenges by the verifier and send the entire proof in one shot. So in the presence of a hash function that is modeled as an idealized hash function, in the presence of a random oracle, the prover can simply send this one proof that is also succinct. The succinctness is simply inherited from Killian's construction. So this is the zkSNARK of Micali. So this gets rid of the first disadvantage that we talked about, that we don't have a non-interactive proof that can be posted on the ledger. But because this is still Killian's construction, the same construction that is run by the prover in its head, it still has the disadvantages of being the concrete efficiency being poor. So the quest for zkSNARKs that sort of started the second era of SNARKs was about assumptions. Can we construct zero-knowledge SNARKs without the random oracle in the so-called standard model? And the work by Gentry and Wicks showed that zero-knowledge SNARKs are hard to construct. That is, we do need strong assumptions, what are called non-falsifiable assumptions, in order to construct SNARKs. And once this result came out, there were a series of positive results that made these kind of strong assumptions and constructed several zero-knowledge SNARKs. So these are what are called knowledge assumptions, and these are the strong assumptions that Gentry and Wicks talk about. So this is the setting for most of the zero-knowledge SNARKs in literature. We have a prover and the verifier, and we have this setup function that I talked about. And in what is called the pre-processing model, the function f about which the prover is giving proofs is fixed in the beginning, and the setup depends on this f. And the setup is tossing certain coins, and there is a CRS that can be split into a proving key and a verification key. So we think of the proving key as being long. It depends on the complexity of the function f itself, but the verification key is short so that the verifier is going to be efficient. So the verifier only needs the verification key, and this is shorter than the complexity of f. So as before, we have a claimed output, which is public, which is y, and a private input w, and the claim is that f of w is y. So the verifier also knows f, but it does not perform work that grows with f in the online phase. All of this work is performed in the pre-processing phase. So the verifier's complexity only grows with the size of the public output, that is y. So the best proofs that we know today is as short as just 3 group elements. And the verifier complexity is a constant number of pairings and a number of exponentiations that grows with the size of the public output. So here there are different variants, whether the setup depends on F or not. So here I said there is a dependence on F, but more recently we also know constructions where we can split the setup phase into an F independent phase and an F dependent phase. So we can have what is called a universal SRS, where the CRS is independent of F. And given this universal SRS, one can derive different strings that encodes the function F, and then again the verifier can verify with complexity that is independent of F itself. And one can also make the distinction. We can have different variants of zkSNARKs depending on whether the setup is cheap or expensive. Again, this is the same as whether there is dependence on F or not, and whether the randomness in setup is secret or public. This leads to the distinction between trusted setup SNARKs and transparent SNARKs. So if the coins that is used by the setup function have to be kept secret for the soundness property to hold, then we have what is called a trusted setup, because the coins have to be secret. If the setup coins are simply random coins that can be public, then we have what is called a transparent setup zkSNARK. And again, transparency is crucial in practice, because if we have a trusted setup, most zkSNARKs we know in practice have explicit attacks where soundness can be violated if the coins used in the setup are made known to the prover. So the prover can actually prove false statements if it has knowledge of the randomness used during the setup. And we can also think about zkSNARKs that have designated versus public verifiability. For most of the talk today, we can assume we have public verifiability. So this is about whether there is a secret involved in the verification or not. So if the verifier needs a secret in order to verify, then it's a designated verifier zkSNARK. If it does not, then what we get is a publicly verifiable zkSNARK. Okay, so now we can ask ourselves who sets up these proving and verification keys in the pre-processing phase, especially if it is going to be a trusted setup zkSNARK, then we have to be careful about who has the randomness and how are we going to keep this secret. So one idea is to in order to get around the assumption that the setup has to be trusted, and what do we do if the setup is corrupt, we can think of running a multi-party computation among many parties to run the setup algorithm. And now, under certain assumptions that some of the parties in the MPC are honest, we will get that the setup is honest, which means that the coins used during the setup is indeed kept secret. But however, this is not a good solution, because even if a group of people are involved in computing the setup, if this depends on F, which is how most zkSNARKs are, every time we want to construct zkSNARKs for different functions, if the prover wants to prove, if the prover wants to give proofs about different functions F, every time we want this, we will have to run a different MPC computation. So this is not a very desirable solution to get around the trusted setup problem. So instead, another model is what is called the updatable common reference string model. Here we have a global common reference string that can be sampled by a setup in the way we talked about. And now any public participant can toss coins and add randomness to the CRS. And this is what we call an update, taking this CRS1 to CRS2 by adding an update of its own. And this can be continued. And the guarantee that we get is that as long as one of the updates in the series of updates is honest, what we have in the end is a good CRS. So what I mean by honest update is an update where the randomness of the update is not available to the prover. And what I mean by a good CRS is that we'll have soundness if that CRS is used. So if a verifier wants to be sure that soundness is not broken because the trusted setup assumption does not hold, then that verifier can participate in this update by contributing to the CRS and then ask the prover to provide a proof with respect to that CRS. Okay, so these kind of zero knowledge SNARKs have plenty of applications. So one application that I talked about in the beginning was the blockchain application. So it can be used to prove, to give privacy-preserving proofs of solvency, privacy-preserving cryptocurrencies like Zcash. The succinctness property is also used in what is called zk rollups, where we really want proofs that are independent of the length of the chain. They're also used in non-blockchain applications like in minimal disclosure credentials, privacy-preserving accountability, and so on. Okay, so any questions up to here before I move on to other properties like non-malleability?
Guess I have a small question. I'm not sure if it's relevant. So if the verifier participates in updating the CRS, could that allow them to learn some information about W and somehow?
Yeah, so one has to be careful how we define these update proofs. So this update itself is a procedure for which there is a proof that is given, which is called an update proof. And this proof shows that the update was done correctly. And if the update was done correctly, then using that CRS will still preserve zero knowledge. So zero knowledge is redefined as zero knowledge in the presence of updatable CRS. And that's a property that takes care of the verifiers participating in the update.
Okay, thank you.
Chaya, there's a question in the chat.
Yeah, in the Plonk setup, does SRS depend on the function? No, it does not. So the Plonk setup uses a universal SRS that is independent of the function, but depends on the on an upper bound on the size of the circuit that represents the function. But given this universal SRS, once you know the function for which you want to give the proof, there is a deterministic procedure to derive an function-dependent CRS from this universal CRS. But the point is that because this is deterministic, you cannot embed a backdoor. So as long as you're happy with the updates of the universal SRS, so you keep updating your universal SRS that's independent of F. And once you're happy that there has been an honest update, you apply this function dependent procedure to derive an F dependent CRS, and then you can give proofs about this F. Okay, I guess I'll move on. Okay, so let us now talk about malleability of proofs. Is there a question?
Yeah, I had, but we had microphone issues. So I asked the question in the void. Okay, I will repeat. I just had a question on the updates. Like in practice, can you do as many updates as you want, or is there a limit on the number of updates?
Well, you can do as many updates as you want, but I guess in practice, it's a question of efficiency because you have to store these update proofs.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the soundness and the proof of knowledge property of a zero knowledge SNARK. Both were against a cheating prover. So here we have a cheating prover that's trying to prove knowledge of W such that X is in the language. And the proof of knowledge property says that it guarantees the existence of an extractor. Here I'm talking about a black box extractor that has Oracle access to the prover. If it's a non-black box extractor, then it has access to the randomness of the prover or the code of the prover and so on. And the proof of knowledge property says that whenever this cheating prover makes the verifier accept an instance X with a proof pi, then this extractor with Oracle access to the prover outputs a valid witness. And by valid witness, I mean it outputs a W star such that W star is a witness for membership of X in the language. This is the proof of knowledge property. But however, in the applications that we thought about, like Zcash and applications on the blockchain, this proof of knowledge property does not quite suffice. So if we think about one application, let's say transaction privacy, where one could potentially use zero knowledge SNARKs, we want to prove statements that look like this. We have we have as input certain old coins, some public values, and if I made a certain transaction using these coins, I'm going to output some new coins and a proof of correct transaction arithmetic. This proof is of a statement that says the coins I hold are valid and the correct transaction arithmetic happened. I have enough money to make this payment and so on. But what guarantees do we have inside such an application when we use a zkSNARK that has a proof of knowledge property? We have the guarantee that the owner of an unspent coin can produce a valid proof, and parties who do not have ownership of an unspent coin cannot produce a valid proof. But it doesn't say anything about adapting a valid proof to be used on a different message. In particular, if we look at proofs that are posted on the blockchain, the prover here has access to many valid proofs because they are simply posted on the chain. So it can see many proofs, many instance proof pairs of the form xi pi I posted on the chain. And now, given access to all these valid proofs, the cheating prover is trying to mall them in order to produce a new instance proof pair x star pi star. And the ability of a cheating prover to do this is not ruled out by the proof of knowledge property. In particular, it can do this without knowing the witness for x star, in which case the extractor cannot succeed. So what we need here is a notion called simulation extractability, which captures this non-malleability property that we need. Here, we give the prover access to the proof simulation oracle in order to capture the extra power that the adversarial prover has. So the adversary has the power to see other proofs by querying this proof simulation oracle on different instances of its choice, and it gets to see proofs for those instances. And in the end, the adversary is going to produce a new instance proof pair. And if the verifier accepts, then we again ask for the existence of an extractor, which, given oracle access to this adversary, produces a valid witness. And here we also add this extra condition to when we say that the adversary has won. We say that the adversary wins only if it succeeds in providing a proof for a new instance. So x star pi star must not be among the instance proof pairs it has seen by querying the simulation oracle. Right, so it queries the proof simulation oracle and sees many instance proof pairs, and if it produces something that is different from all these pairs, and the extractor does not succeed, then we say that the adversary wins. So we want to be able to extract whenever the adversary makes the verifier accept on an instance proof pair that is new or fresh. So this is going to be our simulation extractability definition, and this captures non-malleability that we saw in the previous slide. Does this make sense? Okay. So now, do zkSNARKs, existing zkSNARKs already satisfy simulation extractability? So widely used zero-knowledge SNARKs are designed as interactive arguments and then compiled into non-interactive ones using what is known as the Fiat-Shamir transform. Simulation extractability was known until recent works only for 3-round Fiat-Shamir compiled protocols like Sigma protocols. And these known results from 2012 do not apply to modern zero-knowledge SNARKs that are different in three different properties. First, they are multi-round. They are not 3-round protocols. And second, they are in the CRS model, and in particular, they are in the updatable CRS model, where the adversarial prover also has the ability to provide updates to the CRS. So simulation extractability has to capture that power of the adversary too. So let us begin by looking at the Fiat-Shamir transform and then see how we can show simulation extractability for multi-round Fiat-Shamir transform proofs. So let us take the Schnorr's protocol as a running example. So this is a Sigma protocol for proving knowledge of discrete logarithm. So we have a group of prime order Q, and the prover is claiming knowledge of W such that X is G to the W. So the first message is a commitment, G to the R for a random R. The verifier sends a challenge, and the prover sends the response, which is the witness W sort of masked by R. The verifier checks if G to the Z is A times X to the C and accepts or not. So we have the protocol here. And this protocol satisfies completeness. We can see that G to the Z is indeed A times X to the C if the prover is honest. What about soundness? So this Sigma protocol satisfies a property called special soundness, two special soundness, where we can show that if the prover can answer two distinct challenges, C and C prime, for the same commitment, for the same first message A, then we can actually extract the witness. So because the prover can answer two distinct challenges, we have that two different verification equations hold for Z and Z prime and C and C prime, but for the same prefix, for the same first message A. Therefore, we can divide the two equations and we can extract the witness X, the witness W, which is the discrete logarithm of X. So this is the two special soundness property. This protocol also satisfies honest verifier zero knowledge. For simulation, we can choose Z at random, C at random, and then set the first message A in order to satisfy the verification equation. And we see that the simulator's transcript is identically distributed as the transcript in the real execution. So this is the template of a Sigma protocol. The prover sends a first message, the verifier sends a challenge, which is a random bit string, and the prover sends a response, and the verifier decides based on the transcript, which is the instance and the three messages of the protocol. Okay, so in order to remove interaction from this protocol, we can ask the prover to compute the challenge on its own by applying a hash function to the instance and the first message of the protocol. So the challenge C is computed as h of x and A, where x is the instance and A is the first message. And then it can compute Z and send the entire transcript in one shot to the verifier. So now the verifier can check the same verification equation as before for the challenge C that is derived in the same way as how the prover derived it. So this is what is called the Fiat-Shamir transform, which was originally introduced to convert identification schemes to signature schemes. And in modern systems, this is used to convert interactive proofs into non-interactive arguments. And this can be applied in general as well. So if we have a multi-round but public coin protocol where all the messages from the verifier are just uniformly random strings, then we can convert it into a non-interactive argument where the prover just computes the messages of the verifier on its own. So the prover here computes the first message A1, applies the hash function, uses C1 to compute the next message A2, and then uses the hash function and applies it on the transcript so far. So each time the hash function is applied to the partial transcript so far, and so on. So this gives us a NISC from any constant round public coin protocol. So the results that we know shows that Fiat-Shamir compiled Sigma protocols. Sigma protocols are 3-round public coin protocols, satisfy simulation extractability, which is the definition we saw, which asks for existence of an extractor even in the presence of a proof simulation oracle. However, this technique of showing simulation extractability do not extend to other protocols that do not have the Sigma protocol template, in particular to protocols that have more than 3 messages, that need more than 2 transcripts to extract. So Sigma protocols have 2 special soundness, so we only need 2 transcripts to extract. And they also do not extend to protocols with a CRS and with updatable CRS. So let me give a very high-level idea of how most zkSNARKs today can be abstracted out. So it's a bare-bones protocol, and I have stripped it of all complexity. So this is not how zkSNARKs work at all, but I'm just using this to emphasize on those parts of the protocol that are tricky in order to show simulation extractability. So to highlight the challenges of simulation extractability, this is how an abstract zkSNARK looks like. Okay, so we have an instance X and a witness W. So the prover begins by encoding the witness into polynomials. So there is an encoded constraint system. It is either an arithmetic circuit like constraint or an R1CS constraint, some agreed upon constraint system. And the prover begins by encoding the witness W as a polynomial. Again, this can be done either by thinking of the witness as being coefficients of a polynomial or by interpolating it. It is some polynomial encoding of the witness. And the prover begins by committing to polynomial encodings of the instance and the witness. And this commitment is what is called a polynomial commitment scheme. So this polynomial commitment scheme allows one to commit to a polynomial such that the size of the commitment is independent of the degree of the polynomial. And in addition, it admits evaluation proofs where one can open a point of evaluation and prove that it is consistent with the committed polynomial. And again, these evaluation proofs are succinct as well. So the commitment and the evaluation proof are independent of the degree of the polynomial. So the prover commits to these polynomial encodings of the witness and the instance using a polynomial commitment scheme. The verifier sends a challenge, and the prover opens these polynomials at the challenge points of the verifier. The verifier then checks certain relationships at one point, at a constant number of points. And if it holds at these points, then these identities hold as polynomials as well. So these are true as polynomial identities as well. And this polynomial commitment and the constraint system is such that if these identities hold for polynomials, then it implies that the original constraint system is indeed satisfied. So the challenges in showing simulation extractability for Fiat-Shamir compiled zkSNARKs that have a sort of this template is that there is no tightness, and this is true even for proof of knowledge in going from interactive version to the non-interactive version after compilation. And second, the extractor is not able to program the random oracle after rewinding. And this is either because the proof simulation oracle is also programming the oracle, and this could potentially lead to inconsistency, or in proof systems where the extraction is by rewinding, then the extractor cannot program after rewinding. And third, in SRS-based SNARKs where updates are allowed, the adversary, which is the prover here, has more power in terms of being able to provide updates to the SRS, and this has to be captured in the definition. So let us begin by looking at the tightness in going from interactive version to the non-interactive version. So here we have a prover who starts with an instance and a witness and commits to these polynomial encodings of the instance and the witness. Sees the challenge. So this is the Fiat-Shamir compiled version. So the prover is computing the challenge on its own. And after seeing the response from the random oracle, after seeing the challenge, it can choose to sort of not like this challenge and start all over again, trying with a new instance. So this is something that the interactive prover could not do. So this is extra power that this prover has over an interactive prover who only has one shot to convince the verifier, right? So if this prover does not like the challenge C1, it can just start over and try for a different instance. So usually in the kind of zkSNARKs that we talked about, proof of knowledge is shown for the interactive version. And for a protocol that has soundness error epsilon or proof of extraction error epsilon, if the protocol has R rounds, then there is a degradation in terms of the extraction error of the non-interactive version, where the error is Q to the R times epsilon, where Q is the number of random oracle queries that the prover can make. So here we see that if R is not a constant, and in protocols like bulletproofs, it is logarithmic, then this guarantee is not very meaningful. So here we need a definition that captures this extra power that the non-interactive prover has, which is captured in this notion called state restoration soundness, that captures exactly what we saw, which is the ability of the prover to restore the verifier to a previous state if it does not like a certain challenge. So what happens in state restoration soundness is the following. So the prover starts sending the messages, and the S's are the states of the verifier. The verifier is in state S0 before sending the first challenge. It's in state S1 after sending the first challenge, and so on. So in this protocol execution, let's say the prover could not come up with an accepting transcript. So now the prover can sort of restore the state of the verifier to previous state and start over when the verifier state was S0, leading to a new first challenge C1 prime, and try again. And the prover can also restore the verifier state to any prior point in the protocol. And we maintain a tree of transcripts that the prover has tried so far. And we say that the adversary succeeds if there is at least one accepting transcript in this execution tree. So any questions about this definition? This is just capturing the power that the non-interactive prover has in order to get around the problem that going from interactive to non-interactive for protocols that don't have constant rounds incurs a degradation. Okay. Okay, so in this work by Ghoshal and Tesaro in Crypto 21, they showed state restoration proof of knowledge for bulletproofs, which is a popular zkSNARK in the algebraic group model. And this tightly implies proof of knowledge for Fiat-Shamir compiled bulletproofs, which means that if we can show proof of knowledge for the interactive bulletproof version, then Fiat-Shamir compiled bulletproof version also has proof of knowledge without the degradation that we saw earlier. So this only gives proof of knowledge, and this is going to be our starting point in order to show simulation extractability for bulletproofs. So in order to extend to simulation extractability, what we show is online adaptive simulation extractability in the AGM. We inherit AGM from GT21, which shows proof of knowledge in AGM. In a recent work, we can also remove the AGM and show this only in the ROM, but I'm not going to talk about it today. Okay. So the second challenge in proving simulation extractability is in how we handle random oracle queries, because like we saw before, the non-interactive prover can change the instance after seeing the response from the random oracle, and we cannot rewind and reprogram the random oracle. So if we go back to how we define simulation extractability, the prover has access to this proof oracle. And how do we handle this proof oracle? This is straightforward. We can simply simulate the adversary's simulation queries by using the HVZK simulator that is guaranteed to exist because bulletproofs satisfies HVZK. And this simulator, this HVZK simulator, is going to program the random oracle. And now, if we hope to reduce simulation extractability to state restoration proof of knowledge, the straightforward attempt is not going to work in the presence of a simulation oracle because of the following. The straightforward attempt is to sort of forward the queries to the state restoration oracle and then reduce to state restoration proof of knowledge. However, if the proof that the adversary outputs, if the alleged forged proof that the adversary outputs has a prefix that is matching with one of the outputs of the HVZK simulator, then this forged proof cannot be used to contradict proof of state restoration proof of knowledge, because the state restoration oracle has no knowledge of this prefix. This is something that is programmed by the HVZK simulator. So our reduction fails because this forgery even though it breaks simulation extractability, it doesn't break state restoration proof of knowledge, because the state restoration oracle did not program certain RO queries, but the HVZK simulator did. So in order to tackle this challenge, we need a property that is called the unique response property, that says the following. The adversary should not be able to produce two accepting transcripts that differ from the ith message onwards. So this unique response property is also the property that was used to show simulation extractability of Sigma protocol. So it's a property that is similar in spirit. This is also defined in order to get around the difficulty that the adversary can use proofs that have prefix with simulated proofs. However, this definition of unique response that says that the adversary cannot produce two accepting transcripts that share the same prefix, this definition is simply not satisfied by bulletproofs. It does not satisfy this unique response property, because in the bulletproof protocol, there are certain rounds where the prover sends commitments that are randomized. Because hiding is necessary. And these randomized commitments, with these randomized commitments, one can trivially break unique response by using different randomness to the same message. So if messages are randomized, then this cannot be unique response, and therefore this proof idea to show simulation extractability does not quite work. So what we instead do is, the observation is that unique response is too strong a property, and it should instead be sufficient to require that we have unique response for a fixed honest transcript, because really what was breaking our reduction was that there could be a shared prefix between what the adversary outputs and what the HVZK simulator has output. So we really only care about unique response with respect to a forged proof and a simulated proof, not necessarily two different adversarial proofs. So this is a property that we formalize and call weak unique response. And the good news is that bulletproofs can be shown to satisfy this weak unique response property. It says that given an accepting transcript, the adversary cannot produce another accepting transcript that differs in the ith message. Okay. So this is a rough overview of how we get to our simulation extractability theorem for bulletproofs. We start from the state restoration proof of knowledge of GT21, and we show how to go from there to extractability of the Fiat-Shamir transformed version. And then we go from state restoration unique response to Fiat-Shamir weak unique response of the Fiat-Shamir version. And then we put everything together to get simulation extractability of Fiat-Shamir transformed bulletproofs. Any questions so far? Okay, I guess I'll move on. So recall the second challenge in showing simulation extractability for existing zkSNARKs was this updatable SRS model, where the prover could also have the ability to add to updates of the SRS. Okay, so in order to handle this, we need to modify our simulation extractability definition. So recall this was our simulation extractability definition, where the prover has access to the proof oracle. It makes as many queries as it wants to the proof oracle with different instances, receives proofs, and finally outputs a proof. And now, in order to take care of the updatable SRS, the prover also has access to the CRS update oracle. So it can provide as many updates as it wants to the CRS in order to take CRS I to CRS I+1 in addition to the proof simulation oracle. And in the end, it's going to output X star pi star, and the definition is the same as before. We ask that if it can convince the verifier, then there must exist an extractor that with oracle access to the prover outputs a W star, such that W star is a valid witness if X star pi star is fresh. So in zkSNARKs that are in the updatable SRS model, like Plonk and Marlin, again, programming the random oracle introduces a problem in our reduction, because the extraction, the straightforward way to extract would be as follows. We are going to run the adversary. Remember the template that we saw before. There is a polynomial commitment, there is a challenge, and then there is evaluation at the challenge point together with evaluation proofs, right? So there is the commitment that the adversary gives. And now there are random oracle queries that the adversary is making, and we are going to respond to these RO queries. And then there is a challenge and an opening. And now when the extractor rewinds, we cannot change the response to this random oracle query, because typically the prover's messages are commitments to polynomials in the first step. The challenge is a point of evaluation, and the prover's message is the opening of the polynomial at that point. So by rewinding, the extractor is trying to obtain the evaluation at enough points to interpolate and extract the witness encoded in the polynomial. So this again does not work in order to show simulation extractability. So the unique response property that I defined earlier can be used to get around this issue as well, because morally it's really the same issue. The issue is that the adversary is coming up with a forged proof that has a shared transcript with a simulated proof. And this is something we need to avoid, and we need to define a similar unique response property for zkSNARKs in the updatable SRS model as well. And thankfully, we can show that existing zkSNARKs do satisfy this property in the updatable SRS model. And we can show a theorem that if they satisfy unique response, then we can lift proof of knowledge to simulation extractability. So our theorem shows how to get to simulation extractability under certain conditions, and we also show that existing zkSNARKs in the updatable model like Plonk and Marlin satisfy the preconditions of the theorem and can be shown to be simulation extractable. So how am I doing on time?
So you have 8 minutes left. So
Okay.
maybe if you can think about just wrapping up in the next few minutes, so we can leave a bit of time for questions.
Okay, so I'll just wrap up in a minute. I just want to say a little bit about recent work on universal composability, and then I'll stop. Okay, so universal composability is a framework for concurrent security, and showing that a protocol satisfies universal composability guarantees composition in any context. So this is nice because it's modular and it's convenient to work with as a protocol designer. However, it's also a challenging notion to achieve. And what we do in this work is think about universally composable zkSNARKs that are witness succinct. So earlier when I talked about succinctness, I did not make this distinction, but one can think about SNARKs that are witness succinct, which means that the proof size is independent of the witness. In particular, it only depends on the security parameter. So it's sort of O lambda of 1. And we can contrast this with a weaker notion of succinctness, which is circuit succinctness, where the size of the proof is allowed to grow with the size of the witness, but sublinear only in the size of the circuit. And sometimes circuit succinctness might suffice when the witness is small. But if we are interested in applications like, for example, zk rollups, where really zk is not the important property, but succinctness is, and the witness is really huge, then we really want witness succinctness. So the question is, can we have universally composable zkSNARKs that have the witness succinctness property? So when we think about zero knowledge in UC, we really want a functionality as follows, where there is an ideal oracle that can be used in any higher level protocol, and it is safe to compose in any environment, where this box just computes the relation on X and W given by the prover and says yes or no to the verifier. So what is needed for UC security? What do we need from a zkSNARK in order to show UC security? We need both simulation and extraction to be black box and straight line, because we cannot rewind the environment and we cannot be non-black box in the environment. The problem, however, in showing this is that knowledge of the witness, how we show proof of knowledge, can come from the larger protocol context or the environment, and rewinding the environment is not friendly with UC, and looking at the code of the environment is not conducive for proving UC as well. So how do we take non-black box extraction, zkSNARKs that have non-black box extraction, and lift them to be UC secure? The high level idea is that there exists an extractor which tells us that any environment that produces a SNARK must know the witness. However, if this extractor is non-black box and therefore cannot be invoked, then in order to lift the SNARK to a UC SNARK, what we do is we construct a compiler where we force the environment to use this knowledge in the context of the protocol and invoke a different extractor instead. So this non-black box extractor, which may rely on certain non-black box assumptions like a knowledge assumption, is still, we are still going to inherit that assumption. However, it is going to be in a UC compatible way, because the knowledge assumption is only used in order to argue indistinguishability of the hybrids, and the extractor we invoke is going to be black box. So we construct what is called a commit then prove approach, where we show how to construct succinct extractable commitments that are suitable for black box extraction. I don't have time to get into the details, so I'm just going to stop here. Thank you.